Hi there, I'm Christina, and welcome to my kitchen. If you have a taste for wonder, diverse cultures, and delicious food, then you've come to the right place. Come travel the world with me as we experience the flavors and aromas from all around the globe right here in our kitchens. This season, we will be in Europe, reflecting and cooking from my adventures living abroad with my family. Each episode, we will be in a different country or region, exploring together the foods and cultures of that place. Today, we'll be in southern France, specifically Carcassonne, making chicken fricassee. The flavors, techniques, and ingredients of this dish are prominent to French cuisine, making this the perfect dish to start our journey. Today we are going to be using about 8 ounces of baby bell mushrooms, 4 tablespoons of butter, half a cup of a dry white wine, half a heaping teaspoon of tarragon. If you are using fresh tarragon, you triple it. 1 medium onion, I used yellow, but you may also use white. Half a cup of heavy cream, 1.5 cups of chicken stock, 4 chicken thighs, skin on and bone in. A 1/4 teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper, however you may also use pre-ground pepper, and about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped parsley for garnish. Chicken fricassee is a great dish because it embodies all different techniques, including searing and braising. Both are prominent to the French cuisine. We're going to start with dicing our onion. First and foremost, you have to make sure you hold your knife right. Your index finger is going to be slightly curled, and then your thumb is going to be slightly pinching, not actually pinching, because that would hurt eventually. And basically your arm, your forearm, your hand, and the blade all become kind of one piece. So don't let me see your index finger out. So you also, with your non-dominant hand, you want to make sure that you are constantly performing the claw. The claw is a way to ensure that your fingertips or nails don't get cut or grazed by the knife. And then you'll find that once you achieve this properly, you could go so close to the blade, basically like this, without even harming yourself. Okay, now before we get started, I always put a damp paper towel or cloth under the cutting board to ensure that it doesn't slide while we're cutting. We want to reduce the risks at all costs of harming ourselves because this is supposed to be fun. Okay, so what you need to do is first cut off both ends of the onion, but don't waste any if you can avoid it. You'll see as I'm cutting, I'm not only pressing down, but I am forcing the knife forward and backward, pushing the knife forward and backward. Move those out of the way. And now you have a flat surface. The reason I don't leave the rooted side on, you'll know sometimes you'll see people cutting through that, is because it gets the sand and the dirt and even sometimes the root in the onion, and I like to avoid that. So once you have your flat side, cut down the middle of it, and you will remove the peel. Now, it's very tempting to just peel the minimum, right? Or to go like this. But you'll find sometimes, this one's actually okay, but sometimes it will require you to peel more than one layer. This is because sometimes, here, I'll show it to you here. Sometimes, there we go. Sometimes the layer can be dull and papery, even though the actual colored part is gone. And this doesn't disintegrate. So you want to make sure you remove it to the point, and then remove all that slimy, remove that layer as well, because then it could cause your knife to slide. We want it to be almost like a glossy look, as you see here. Okay, never work around anything. So always clear your place. We call it housekeeping. I like to use a trash bowl as well. That way you don't have to go back and forth from the trash can and waste time. I am all about efficiency. Okay, these lines in the onion are your guide. They are your friend. You are going to use those to figure out, which way do I cut my onion first? We are doing a dice. So you will use about the first half of your blade. Lead with the tip of your knife. If you lead with the back, then you're gonna cut through the entire width of the onion, and we don't wanna do that. What we're gonna do is cut almost to the end. However, make sure you cut all the way through the thickness. Some people find that confusing, so I'm gonna show you what to do. You're gonna use the tip of your knife, and you are going to cut almost to the end. And these are just about 1/2 inch thick strips. See, it's still fully intact. You're going to turn the onion 90 degrees to whichever dominant hand you are. And then you are going to remember to do the claw, and you're gonna cut it again. Notice how as I'm cutting, I'm not just pressing down, I am pushing my knife forward as well. There you go. Once you have about the same thickness that you've been working with left, you push that over. Use the back of your knife, by the way, to move anything out of the way. It dulls your knife if you don't, and the sound will tattle on you. You're going to kind of see the rainbow or the arch. You're going to just cut along the shape of the arch. And that way, you don't have to go and corral your onion and do all that again, or what I call the pendulum chop. Again, we're all about efficiency here. I'm gonna do that again. I'll show you a faster way. I'll show it to you again in a faster speed, okay? There you go. Okay, clean off your knife. This is gonna be about the 1/2 inch size diced onion. We're gonna set this aside, and then we're gonna work with the mushrooms. Now, the mushrooms, these are baby Bella mushrooms. The only difference between these and white button mushrooms is the maturity and the age of the mushroom. So these are more mature and firmer, offering a stronger flavor, if you will, of the mushroom. So if you're a little like wondering, should I use mushrooms? I'm not a big mushroom fan. Start with the white ones. Those have a less pungent flavor. They have a more mild flavor. Now, when we wash mushrooms, it is important to not rinse them with water. I know it's very tempting to do so, especially when you see all that dirt, but the best way to do this is to grab a paper towel. You're gonna get it just wet enough that it's damp. Squeeze out any excess water. Unravel it, because you're gonna need all the surface area of this towel you can get, because you'll see a lot of dirt on these. Take the mushroom and gently wipe, not scrub. If you start to give your mushroom a chemical peel with your paper towel, then you've done too much. Okay. Oh, see, look, don't do that. It's okay. All right, and then you're gonna go underneath and clean that up. Thus, you have a clean mushroom. The reason we don't rinse the mushrooms is because they are highly porous. They're like sponges. So when you put water in them, just like a sponge, it's gonna absorb it all. And then it's gonna carry it to your dish. And then it's gonna be watery, and we don't want that. So you can do this in 2 different ways. You can either quarter the mushrooms or slice them. I prefer to slice them, but I do thick slices. So first things first, I like to cut this part off. Don't waste it though, it's perfectly fine. We're gonna use that. And then that way, again, you have a flat side to create stability. And don't forget the claw. And you're just going to cut, I'm gonna do about, let's say, 1/4 of an inch slices. There we go. As such. Now I actually washed the rest of these, so I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna show you one more time. We are going to keep the stems. Waste not, want not. And there we go. So this reminds me of shopping in the French markets in the city of Carcassonne, but basically anywhere, where I actually learned something that at first was kind of embarrassing. I didn't know this. And unlike America, where we can kind of feel and get a feel and sense of the product that we're selecting with our hands, and sometimes people even, use their noses, that is a no-no in France. So when I started feeling the produce to make sure I was getting the best pick for myself, I was approached by a very angry market vendor and learned really quickly, you use your eyes when you are shopping at the markets, which I understand. It's good to know that your food wasn't manhandled by a bunch of random people before you got it. Okay, so we're almost there. This one I didn't even have to, I don't know if I did anything. I don't think I had to do anything with that one. That's fun. It did the work for me. There we go. Notice how no matter what the size of the product is that I'm working with, I always do the claw. It feels very unnatural at first, but I promise you, once you keep doing it, you're gonna realize, oh, look, I'm doing it. I'm not even trying. So we've got our mushrooms there. We've got our onions here. We've got the rest of our ingredients. Before we head over to the stove, I am going to season the chicken. Now, I'm actually gonna, clean up again. Housekeeping. Okay, I'm gonna clean up a little, and then I'm gonna show you how to season your chicken. Well, this is 4 chicken thighs, about 2 pounds. I would say this is good for 3 to 4 people, but absolutely no judgment if you wanna multiply this recipe at all, for no matter how many people you're making it for. All right, I'm gonna grab the salt so we can start seasoning. And the freshly cracked black pepper. So one of the most exciting parts about cooking is when someone tastes the food and they're like, what's in this? It's so fun to tell them how simple the ingredients actually are. And I think you'll find when you cook that the technique actually makes the biggest difference in the flavor of the food. So I have actually patted dry these chicken thighs. It's important to do that so that you achieve a proper sear. If it's wet, 1, it could risk sticking to the pan more, and 2, not browning. Basically, liquid is the enemy to a sear. We don't ever want that. Okay, I have some kosher salt here. You are welcome to use whatever salt you prefer, but just so you know, that's what I have. Season high. Seasoning high allows you to reach more surface area and a more evenly seasoned product. There we go. I like to kind of use my eyes with this. I don't overdo it, but I make sure it's all covered. Again, and season high, when I say that, I mean kind of chest region, right? Just right up here. You don't have to go crazy with it. Okay, there you go. That's that. We are going to hold off on seasoning the other side until the chicken is actually in the pan. We're gonna turn on our heat, let our pan heat up enough, and then we're gonna start searing these babies. Okay. To get the pan hot enough, I have this at medium-high heat, and I'm going to let it sit and get hot without adding any fats to it yet. If you add your fat too soon, then 1, you could risk burning your fat. Another reason why you leave it and let it get hot before adding any product is to ensure it's the proper temperature before adding that product. So one way you can do this is grab the tiniest drops of water and just drop them quickly on the pan. If the water sizzles and evaporates immediately, you're good. If it is dancing along the pan in balls, then you might want to reduce your heat a little. This means that the minute you add your fat, it could start burning. And you'll notice with the smoke plumes that might come up. In that case, you might want to start over. Okay, so still gonna work its way. I have a cast iron skillet. You can also use a Dutch oven. Really, a heavy bottom pot or pan is important for this. You are welcome to use stainless steel as well, but again, to achieve the proper technique of a French stew, that's what they do. So before we took this trip, I remember my son was, oh my goodness, he was 6 months old. My daughter was 2.5, and my husband had this idea to live abroad for 6 months. Let's do it. You know, they're not in school. I know I'm changing jobs. And I thought he was nuts. I think I was holding my son, probably nursing him and thinking, are you crazy? Don't answer that. Yes, you are crazy. But he is very convincing. And I also love travel. Who am I kidding? So we entertained it. And this whole process started about 9 months before we actually took off in the plane. And it took a lot of moving parts, a lot of people frustrated with us, upset, thinking, what are you doing? You're making the wrong choice. We sold our condo. We actually lived with my parents for several months, which was wonderful of them to let us do that, to save some money. And the feelings I had, I can't tell you how anxious I was. But the best part about this was just, trying to have faith in the process, right? Nothing is better than kind of overcoming your fear or anxiety and showing yourself that it's, not a figment of your imagination, but it's a feeling. It's not necessarily a reality. So in that same way, cooking can be applicable, right? This could seem very overwhelming to someone, but if you take it one step at a time and have confidence in yourself and faith that it will work out, it will work out. Maybe not the first time, right? But give yourself grace. No one's good at something. Well, very few people are actually amazing at something the first time they do it, right? Let's check that pan. All right, so got a little bit of water. Don't overdo it. All right, we don't want to waterlog our pan. Oh, do you see that? We need to reduce the heat there. Okay, not horrible. I'm reducing it to medium heat, and you would do this anyway. Basically, you get it to medium high, not high. Medium high to get the pan hot enough. You add the product, and then you'll reduce the heat. But if it's not hot enough, again, it'll draw the liquid out, and the liquid won't cook off fast enough, which will, in turn, not allow the sear. Okay, so I have 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna throw that in there. Actually, don't actually throw it. There we go. We're gonna swirl our pan. It's pretty heavy. Remember, these are heavy bottoms, so you can use 2 hands if necessary. The point is to keep the fat moving. If the fat is moving, it prevents burning. But again, your pan shouldn't be hot enough that it should burn. So it's a little tango, if you will. Okay, I love this. This is the perfect temperature. I don't know if you can see this, but the fat is bubbling. It isn't sizzling as much. Like, it's not browning, it's just bubbling. And that's exactly what we want. I'm gonna raise the heat again. We call this cradling your heat. It is important when you're cooking to cradle your heat. You kind of have to be on it. So you can't just set it on medium high and then just keep it at that. And that might actually be one of the mistakes that many people make when cooking, is they don't constantly adjust the heat according to what is necessary in that moment. Okay. So, again, it is not browned, but it is a proper sizzle. So I'm going to place the chicken skin side down first. Now, when you do this, you want to give it a little shimmy. This actually prevents it from sticking on your pan, no matter what material the pan is. Make sure there's fat under it, and you give a little shimmy right when you place it down. Bring some more fat over there. There's that. Swirl it. Last but not least, there we go. I like to rinse off my utensils when I'm dealing with raw meat, even though it's gonna touch it again. I don't know. I've seen too many things. I've seen things, so we're just gonna let that be, okay? So now we're gonna season the other side. I have a little song that when I taught classes, I would sing it to my students so that this mantra would stick. I don't know if it actually helped it to stick or if it pushed it out of their brains even more, but it goes, you can always add, but you can't remove. So taste as you go when you're making food. All that to say, don't over season too close to the beginning. You can always add more. We're gonna do the pepper. I'm gonna reduce this back to medium again, because now my butter is getting a nice brown color. It's telling me, lower the heat, lady. All right. Let the fat dance along the pan. Okay, we don't want any sides to go unnoticed here. Now, this could vary, right? If you don't have a gas stove, it might take longer to achieve this sear. Induction should be pretty quick, but basically, let your eyes kind of tell you if it's ready to be turned or not. You're gonna look for the edges, and you're gonna look for a golden brown color around the edges. So once you think you see that, lift it, okay? So that's good. I'm actually gonna turn it though. I want a little more. See, you're getting there. Oop, no! There you go. Turn it a little. And the reason I'm changing the angle of the chicken is so that it all cooks evenly as possible at least. I want to show you what that looks like. Look at her. Oh, she's a beaut. Now, oh, this one needs a little more work. All right. We're gonna let that sear again a little longer. The flavors and the aromas of this dish actually take me back to living in our apartment in Carcassonne. It was on the top floor, a top floor unit. It was 2 stories, but the second story was actually the attic. So it was so charming. And if you look out the window, you see a wine shop attached to a restaurant, and then you've got the streamed lights. It was so idyllic. I can't tell you how beautiful it was and how much joy it brought me to like go down. You didn't even have to go down. You could just open the windows and hear the French music playing. I was like, pinch me. This is amazing. So something that's a little, actually I'm gonna reduce the heat. All right, this is good. I'm gonna grab a plate and make sure when you place the chicken on the plate to rest, it is skin side up. This prevents the skin from getting soggy and stays crunchy. Now, we are not looking to fully cook this, so don't be alarmed when you're like, I'm not sure that's done. It's not supposed to be. All right. Looks good though. All right, now we're gonna throw in our mushrooms. Actually, let me see. I'm actually gonna cook off the onions. We're gonna throw in the onions first. Again, don't throw them because then you're gonna hurt your arms or your hands or something with the fat splatting everywhere. Okay, I'm gonna change to a spatula. Again, movement helps prevent overcooking. So you'll see I have a nice brown butter. That's okay, this is good. We want to cook off some of the liquid in the onions. Onions are mostly water. So by cooking the liquid off, I'm gonna bring it back to medium. maybe even medium low. We'll see how it goes. Cooking off the liquid will continue the sear. Another important factor when you are trying to sear or caramelize is to not overcrowd the pan. If you overcrowd the pan with onion or mushrooms, again, the liquid secretes and then it doesn't get cooked off fast enough because there isn't enough surface area for it to get hot enough. Isn't that crazy? That's it. That's all you need to know about that. Okay, let's give this another stir so you'll see my pan is not overcrowded with these onions. This is when I'm gonna add the mushrooms. One technique I like to do when I add the mushrooms to the pan is to kind of push the onions into a corner, a side. There's no corner on the pan, you know what I mean. That way, they aren't surrounded by the onions and they have a chance to sear. You know, searing is our friend today. This is the whole point that we're here. That mushroom is sticking. Okay. There we go. Again, every little technique makes a big difference in the flavor. I think we can, there we go. Now we aren't looking to make these too browned. We just want to achieve a little light golden sear on the sides because not only does it look pretty, more importantly, it tastes really good. It's like toasted, like think of a creme brulee or a croissant. Like the reason the croissant is so delicious is because the butter is, first of all, very prominent and it's browned, right? So the flavor of the dish is in every little bit of the techniques, which actually reminds me of the small moments of the days when we were in France that brought on such a joyous feeling for me. One of these is actually walking to the markets with my freshly three-year-old, and we would walk down the cobble streets, not too long, about a half mile, and the markets were just wonderful. There would be flowers, there would be some fresh bread, even though there was a boulangerie just right behind there, which was actually my favorite. And walking there, even with a coffee in my hand or grabbing a coffee, and just the intentionality and mindfulness of being there, slowing down, that was honestly more of a luxury than getting to be in another country, if that makes sense. Being in another country forced me to experience all that, which it was a beautiful thing. And honestly, I miss it even today, even though I try to incorporate it into my days. All right, they're looking toasty. This is great. Can you see this? Here. That's kind of what we want. So we're just gonna give it, now we can kind of incorporate them all. You'll notice I haven't seasoned the onions or the mushrooms. The reason I haven't done that yet is because the water would be drawn out. Salt retains water. Salt retains water. So when I add the salt, it will automatically draw out any liquid that's in there, which is why we want to cook off the liquid or as much as possible before adding the salt. That way there's nothing to retain except for delicious flavor. Oh my goodness. Okay, we are going to start our roux. This is going to be the base of the sauce. In order to achieve it, you need some flour. All-purpose flour is wonderful. If you are gluten-free, you can use tapioca flour. That will also work. Gonna grab a tablespoon. Now the way I do this is you grab the tablespoon and you use a flat side of a butter knife to make it even. I'm going to throw that in there. Let's try that one more time. You're not gonna pack it in. Just gonna scrape it right off. It's kind of satisfying. Let's see what that does. And now you want to stir it until you no longer see the white of the flour. If you do see the white of the flour and you add your liquid, it's very likely that could become clumpy, and we don't want that. I'm actually gonna add a 1/3 tablespoon, so it's gonna be 3 tablespoons. 3 leveled tablespoons is what you would call this. Again, you'll also start to see the ingredients kind of look like a paste, a thick paste. This is exactly what we want. Okay, so let's stir this up. Again, make sure, I have my heat at medium. Make sure your heat is at medium. We've already done the browning that we want. All right. Thank you, Grandma Lola, for that. All right, I'm gonna add some chicken stock. I have about a cup and a half of chicken stock. I like to make my own, but I am not above getting store-bought chicken stock. You do you, whatever is easiest. Just don't use water, please. All right. Now we're gonna stir again. There's a lot of stirring going on here. Stir, stir, stir. It's gonna be so cool to see the liquid start to bubble and get thick quite quickly, actually. You want to cook off the flour. If you do not cook this sauce long enough, you will actually have a flour taste and even like a slightly grainy consistency. So you want to cook that off before you add the chicken in. So here we go, we're stirring this up. We are also going to add half a cup of white wine. Make sure it's dried. I prefer a Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Grigio. You could use Chardonnay. This is not the time for Moscato. Okay, leave that for dessert or whenever. All right, there we go. Now, the wine is important, not just for flavor, but also to help tenderize the meat. Wine is an acid, and that acid helps tenderize the protein. Isn't that cool? All right, so we're giving it a little stir action. We're gonna let it sit for a minute. Make sure your pan is level on the heat. I'm actually gonna cover it. The less mess I have to clean up, the better. I'm also going to add my tarragon now. I'm gonna use a measuring spoon for this, but you can also eyeball it. The reason I usually eyeball it is because I like to crunch it in my hands before adding it to the pan. So I'm doing about a heaping half teaspoon of this. Tarragon is prominent in France and French cuisine. It actually comes from the sunflower family, believe it or not. And it carries the flavor of anise or even a little bit of black licorice. Now, before you start cringing and say, never mind, I'm not doing that, because I know black licorice is polarizing. I actually am not the biggest fan of black licorice. But the tarragon adds a freshness, and it actually also carries, in a weird way, the flavor of the white wine as well. Like if you didn't have white wine in there, you might even pick up on notes of that. All right, so we're gonna stir that up. Oh, she's beautiful. Look at her. Isn't she lovely? All right, she's getting thick. Let's add the chicken. Okay, remember, skin side up. Can you hear this? Hold on. It's like crispy. That's what you want. Now, it won't necessarily stay crispy the whole time because the vapors from the sauce will eventually soften it, but the flavor's there, and that's all that matters. Okay, this is now going to be the braising process. Engage braising process. Initiate. Initiate braising process. Here we go. I like to add the flavors back in because there was some good flavor on that. There are 3 factors that are important to achieve a proper braise. One, they're actually like the 3 L. They're the 3 L's. Low heat, liquid, and a long time. So I'm actually gonna reduce this to a low heat. You can see the heat there's a lot of heat that is packed into this heavy bottom cast iron right now. And that's actually why the French use this, so that it retains the heat. But I am going to reduce the heat, and I'm not gonna fully cover this. Fully covering it will definitely steam the skin. We don't wanna do that. However, I do want, let's see if I can do this. There we go. There we go. We wanna make sure the vapor can release, that it has somewhere to go, vent out. Otherwise it, makes it goodbye crunch to the skin. Okay, anyway, so I'm gonna crack the lid. That way it doesn't steam, and reduce the heat. And we're gonna let it sit for about 20 minutes. We are gonna finish this dish by adding half a cup of cream, adding our cream in, giving it a light stir, and then the final seasoning. So I'm gonna stir the cream in and then taste as I go. Okay. As we let this sauce simmer for about 5 more minutes, you'll see the thickness and the richness of the cream come out. You are welcome to remove the chicken thighs once more to stir the cream in if it's a little too much maneuvering for you. But that's one more task that I don't feel like doing. I don't want to get another dish dirty. Okay. Gotta be careful with this lid. All right. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna grab some tasting spoons. Always more than one. Always more than one. Give it a light dip. Oh my goodness. Fun fact, you can use the other end of your spoon so that you don't have to get another one too soon. Oh my goodness. Would you believe it actually doesn't need any more? Don't you just love when it happens? It's like, give yourself a pat on the back. Perfection. Okay, so again, a little bit more of a stir. We want to make sure everything is properly incorporated. Tilt the lid once more. We're gonna let that simmer for another 5 minutes, and then it's done. One of the experiences I vividly remember is my kids' experience traveling for the first time. I was amazed by how adaptable they are. And I think they actually adapted easier than my husband and I did sometimes. I guess knowing that we're around, that was all that mattered. But some of the most fun moments were actually so simple as to when a train would approach or we would go through a tunnel. Nobody loves a train and tunnel more than a 1.5 and 3-year-old. And seeing their excitement with those small moments actually made my husband and I excited about them. And anytime I would see a tunnel show up, we would mimic it in my 1.5-year-old's voice. You know, it's so cheesy, so silly. But those, again, slowing down and being forced to be intentional and mindful helped us to magnify those small moments, which actually could correlate to cooking. Every small moment, I think one of the reasons I love cooking so much is because each action makes a difference, makes an impact. It's layered. And if you're honed in on each action, it can actually be therapeutic. Nothing is more calming than to know A plus B equals C. And when you apply these techniques properly, you're going to get a certain result. And it's a calming feeling, which is what I needed when I was traipsing around Europe with 2 toddlers. So the creaminess, the thickness of this sauce is perfection. We already know it tastes perfection. The temperature is perfection. You want to make sure that it's a minimum of 160 when you measure to the center of the thickest part. Hopefully this is close to a bone. And the reason you want to get a reading right by the bone is because that is where it's going to take the longest to cook. Nothing's worse than cutting into chicken and having the outside be perfectly done and then right next to the bone there's blood or it's not fully cooked. So that's exactly what we want. And that's what we have. This is it. Let's plate it. For this, I'm going to use a wide, shallow bowl. Now, I love eating this with mashed potatoes, but you can also eat this with rice or roasted potatoes. Gonna grab one of those. Hopefully this doesn't break on me. Oh my goodness, look at this. Oh, perfection. So we're gonna plate it right in the center there. And then I'm going to get a small ladle. And then I'm going to get a ladle. Grab some of those mushrooms. Oh my goodness. And pour it, I like to pour it around it so that it showcases the brown skin. Next, presentation is key. So, we gotta clean up in aisle 2 over here. Clean the rim. Using a dry paper cloth helps to make sure it doesn't smear. And then I'm going to grab some fresh parsley. Just a little, I would say about a tablespoon. Now, normally I would chop parsley with a cutting board, but my mother-in-law actually bought me these herb cutting scissors. And at first I would like to say, actually I don't want to say this, but honestly I was a little pretentious about it, thinking I cut my herbs. What do I need this for? But this is amazing. It's so fun. Get yourself one of these. So if, like me, you have dirt around your parsley, give it a little rinse, pat dry it, because we don't really want it to be wet. Otherwise it would be sticky, or not sticky, but soggy, if you will. Okay, once it's dried, fold the parsley, and then we're just gonna cut little snippets of it, literally. And then I like to tap my finger. I like to tap the scissors along my hand. Now, there are pros and cons to this. I personally like to have more control over my garnish, but this is also quick too, you know, because then otherwise you're garnishing your counter, you're garnishing everywhere. But actually, I would say it's did a pretty good job. Look at that. One final tap. Oh, beautiful. check this out. You did it. How proud of yourself do you feel right now? I had a lot of fun with this, and I hope you did too. It is my passion to share good food and stories with people, and I hope that I can help you gain confidence in the kitchen so that it shines through your food. If this was at all difficult for you, don't stress. That's completely normal. With some practice and some time, you will have mastered this dish, and you too can visit France from your kitchen whenever you want to. Cooking is an adventure as well as an art form. So please don't be afraid to take risks and to try new things. Join us next time as we travel to the Tuscan region of Italy, specifically the walled city of Lucca. I'm Christina, and thanks so much for wandering with me. This was my mother-in-law's grandma's pan. So it may have seen better days. Nikers. This is an artifact right here. All right. These two are they're like not your typical cats. Like when I thought of a cat, I thought they were just rude and stand off, and they are so they're like dogs. They play and they cuddle and all the things.